Public shame. Public shame can be something good. It can be even life-saving, or it can be bad, even life-threatening. Public shame brings the feeling of humiliation, and humiliation and embarrassment are commonly confused, but embarrassment is what others bring upon you, and then humiliation is what you bring upon yourself. According to uslegal.com, public shaming is a judicial punishment imposed on a convicted criminal that includes humiliation in public instead of imprisonment. The fact that humiliation is on the same level of imprisonment says a lot about the feeling and impact of humiliation. A lot of people out there, maybe you guys, may have just a positive connotation and say, yeah, it really brings awareness to a problem, and it makes an impact, and it's effective. Or some may have a negative connotation and say, no one should ever be shamed like that in public. It's not necessary. But no one ever thinks of the extremes, like of it literally saving lives or it literally ending lives. I have firsthand experienced humiliation when I was a freshman and I moved to a new school. And of course, I was a 14-year-old girl, and like every other 14-year-old girl, I just wanted to be liked, and boys were all new, and so these pictures were going around school. I sent them to like a couple of guys. I'm sure you guys know what picture I'm talking about. And of course, they got out and they were circulating the school, and eventually got to my mom, and it became a huge ordeal, and it was a feeling that I've never felt before, and I still haven't felt it. The humiliation was horrifying. I could barely get up to go to school. I didn't want to go to school. I was depressed for so long, and I know I did need to learn my lesson, but I know for a fact I did not need to learn it that way. I got treated horribly, and it was people hopping on that bandwagon and saw one person making fun of me, so like they wanted to as well and just didn't think about my feelings. So my answer to is public shaming necessary in American society today is yes and no. It is necessary in the sense of keeping people in check, especially those at the platform, but is not necessary in humiliating people that can learn their lessons a very much less intense way. For example, a good way it can be used is according to Wired. In June 2014, The Guardian reported slave labor in Thailand's shrimp industry and named a lot of really big retailers who were selling that slave labored shrimp. And all this media had huge coverage on it, and the spokesman for the Prime Minister said, you know what, it's not us keeping the slaves there, it's the consumers who are buying all these shrimp, keeping them in business. And all that public shame made the customers come together and stop buying those shrimp, and eventually that system failed. And so it's that public shame that brought all the society together to make a difference and save those slaves' lives, technically. While it's very amazing that that public shame really brought the society together to make a huge impact, it can also be taken the wrong way and end a life. For example, Isabel Luxamina was a 13-year-old girl who died because of public shaming from her own father. And what happened is she came home from school one day, and no one knows exactly why it happened, but it could have been from just being a 13-year-old girl and not listening to her father, or doing something bad in school like any other teenager. Her father cut her hair and videotaped it, saying, you know, this is what happens when you don't listen, and da-da-da-da, and she was just standing there in silence, like looking down, and that video went viral, and it made it to her school, and so they were also making fun of her and just shaming her, and she was so humiliated that one day she was driving with her grandmother and they were on top of a bridge and she jumped out and jumped off the bridge. So that humiliation caused her to want to end her life because of a simple mistake that all kids make. To this day, humiliation remains a common form of punishment, abuse, and oppression. A parapsychologist, Mark Otten and Kai Jonas, did a study on the brain and found that humility was a more intense feeling than anger, sadness, and shame. No child, teenager, or even adult should feel that level of intense emotion for a common mistake, especially children, because they don't know how to react to it. According to DoSomething.org, nearly 43% of kids have been bullied online, and 1 of 4 said it's happened more than one time. And it's very sad because now with social media, it's so easy to hop on that bandwagon, go into the comment section, agree with a negative comment, or not think about how the other person is feeling. And it's sad because bullying victims are 2 to 9 times more likely to commit suicide. And going back to that first definition I gave from U.S. Legal, according to the Association of Psychological Sciences, a 24-year-old man was charged for stealing mail, and the judge was lenient enough to give him only 2 months in jail with a supervised release. But in that supervised release, he had to stand in front of the San Francisco post office and wear a board that said, "I stole mail and this is my punishment." The fact that he gave him a short amount of time in jail and decided to publicly humiliate him and decided that would be more effective just shows how intense and what an impact that public shaming can do. And that is also an example of a positive way to use it. But if you take advantage of how strong that feeling can be and put it onto someone who can't handle it or doesn't deserve it, it can end in horrifying, terrifying ways. So in conclusion, while public shaming can really make a positive impact and change lives in a good way, it is not always necessary. So my message to you guys, and hopefully it goes past you, is if you ever see someone make a mistake or mess up, don't jump on them bandwagon and comment something rude or criticize them in public. How about you confront them privately or just leave it alone, because 9 out of 10 times there is an easier, less humiliating, less painful way for them to learn their lesson or fix what they've done.